Hi, I'm Jennifer Byrne in Edinburgh, a town currently teeming with people from everywhere, all here for the Fringe Festival. But I'm here for a very different reason. It was here in the 90s that a young, desperate unknown called Jo Rowling wrote the first of the Harry Potter series, The Philosopher's Stone. More than 400 million books later, she is publishing again and doing just one Australian interview for the new book. Who wouldn't leap at the chance to speak to this remarkable woman who turned a whole generation into avid readers and gave the world some of the most enduring characters in all fiction? Thanks so much for being here today, and congratulations on the new book.
Thank you.
Let's start with when you finished Harry Potter in 2007. You talked about missing him, even mourning him. How long did that last?
Months, I would say, months. Yeah, it was tough. It was really tough. And I was missing just writing it. Just writing it, just being in that world. I loved writing it. I can't pretend that I always loved writing it. There were times when there was a lot of pressure on me, and even times where I wanted to go and write other, because I had other ideas, and I thought, well, it'd be nice to be able to stop and do that and then go back. But the pressure was kind of relentless, you know.
But you did do that, didn't you, at one stage after
I did.
The fourth Goblet of Fire?
Yeah, I did.
You took a break?
I did. I didn't finish what I was writing then, but it's very well developed. It could be finished at any time.
How many manuscripts do you have in your drawer, Jo?
Quite a lot, yes.
When you finished Harry Potter in 2007. The story I heard was that, because you wrote it in a hotel, the last
I did,
section, and that your moment of celebration when you finished was to basically ransack the hotel minibar. Is it true?
I thought you were going to say the room. I didn't, yeah.
No.
It is true. I finished it, bawled my eyes out, went to the minibar. They had one of those pathetic little half bottles of champagne. It's not very rock and roll. Downed that. Went home covered in mascara and a little bit drunk.
Why were you crying?
Just, it was so huge. It was, I mean, just any writer finishing a book will know what I mean when I say you've lived a parallel existence and suddenly the door closes, it's over. But for me it was 17 years. It was 17 years. I was writing Harry Potter the night that my mother died. It was a connection to a very different time in my life. It had always been there for me to escape into during the most turbulent years of my life. I sat in that hotel room drinking champagne, sobbing my eyes out, remembering how I finished the first book in a flat which had been furnished with old furniture that people had given me. I was skint. You know, of course, all of this flashes through your mind. And there I was in a very nice hotel room finishing the book, and I could afford to work in that way. Yeah, it was incredibly emotional.
Because anyway, I mean, you gave birth to Harry Potter, of course, but he rebirthed you, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, even if the books had never made me a penny, and I really mean this, the first book saved my sanity. I mean, I was not in the best place when I wrote that book, in all sorts of ways. I mean, I've spoken publicly about the fact that I was very depressed at one point. It lifted me, it raised me up, it gave me something to do in the evenings that was healthy, gave me focus.
The Casual Vacancy is the story of a small, seemingly idyllic village whose ugly side emerges following the death of a local parish councillor. So the new book.
Yes.
The Casual Vacancy. Mm-hmm. Are you nervous? Are you feeling nervous?
No. I'm feeling excited. Truthfully, I'm feeling excited. I think I felt maybe more pressure with Harry Potter because people were waiting for it so much. This I've done for me, and there isn't that weight of expectation, or I don't feel it in the same way. You look at me like that. Well,
I've got news for you, Jo.
I suppose I've had 5 years to tell myself you don't have to publish it, which was true after all. I'm in a very fortunate position that I don't have to publish. So I had a long time to think about whether I wanted to do this, and I really do want to do it. So I only feel that usual tingle of nerves that you get before you come out and talk on television or you do events.
Was it, I mean, famously the Harry Potter story, you know, in 1990. It came down...
On a train.
On a train.
Yeah, I had this one on a plane.
Tell.
I was just on a plane, and the essential idea was local election, and I could see how that was a great way into a small community, and it was a way for me to write about things that I wanted to write about. So, yeah, clearly you have to put me on some kind of moving vehicle, and then I have an idea, because it's worked twice.
Why were you interested in that?
Because I think that's just what... in the final analysis, that's the kind of book I love. I love this sort of 19th century novel, a parochial society in which you get to know characters very well, and you're able to go into their inner lives, but also watch how they interact externally, and the huge effects we can have on each other, even by not acting. So that's what interests me. So I think it was maybe inevitable that at some point I was going to write that kind of book, and it's now.
It's quite a tragic book. I'm reluctant to use the word dark because it sounds very negative, but I think it is.
Yes, I agree. I agree. At the heart of the book.
It made me cry.
It made me cry more than anything I've ever written. And when I was editing it, I went back to it, having, of course, when you're writing, you read and reread and reread and reread, and then when I was editing, I went back, well, this is going to be quite a clinical exercise now, just go back through this, got to the end of the book, bawled my eyes out all over again, yes. So we're really encouraging people to read this book. Read this book and bawl. Yes, at the heart of the book is a tragic, what to me is a tragic situation. The central tragedy of the book clearly is the Weedon family, and
explain the Weedon family.
The Weedon family is, it's a single mother. 2 of her children have already been taken into care. Her daughter, Crystal, is 16, and then she has a much younger son, Robbie, who's
3.
Around, yeah, he's 3.5, that's right. And the mother is addicted to heroin. The daughter's trying to hold things together as much as she can. Crystal is pretty ignorant. She's intermittently violent. She's promiscuous.
She's not your obvious heroine.
I'm not even sure that she is a heroine. I mean, a few people who've read the book said to me, they seem to look for who's the hero, who's the heroine. They're trying to latch onto that. I mean, for me, in many ways, the hero died in the first few pages of the book. That's almost the point of the book. But she is, no, I don't think I'm sentimentalising Crystal in any way, but I've known Crystals, and Crystal also happens to be very loving. She has ambition. Ambition was kindled in her by the man who died. So, although I never considered it as a title, because I think it would be a lousy title, you could distill the meaning of the book into what do we do about Crystal? Really, that is at the heart of the book. What do you do about a girl living as she has to live in a house that's a frightening place? She's not being parented. She's virtually uneducated by most people's standards. What do we do? What do we do about someone like that?
I got the impression you were quite angry some of the time. It's not to say an angry book, but I felt that there was sometimes an angry author.
There are things that make me angry. Yeah. I can say that one of the things that makes me angry, and one of the I'm sure it's never particularly conscious why you write a book. It's a much more sort of chemical thing than that, as I've said. But I'm sure that one of the impetuses was we discuss the poor as this faceless lumpen mass. You know, this is how they are discussed by politicians and the media often. Not all the media, not all politicians, but a huge swathe of both discuss the poor as just this large homogeneous mass. I was one of those people. I know how it feels to be discussed in that way. I know exactly how it feels, and clearly I was an intelligent middle-class person who had fallen through a crack and found themselves in a situation just as much as I never expected to find myself here. I never expected to find myself living from benefit check to benefit check. I hadn't factored that in at all with a small baby in a damp flat. Never thought that would be my life. And I can remember reading the newspapers and watching the TV and being talked about in that way. You lose your individuality. For a long time in my head, didn't say it to anyone else, the novel was called Responsible. That was my working title, Responsible, because I'm very interested in how responsible we are, each of us individually, for our own personal happiness, how responsible we are towards other people, even in our personal relationships. How responsible am I for my husband's happiness? How much responsibility do I bear for my child's happiness? And then the responsibility that we all have just by living as social animals, herd animals, for what happens on the fringes of our herd, where you have the disadvantaged, the sick, and so on. So yeah, for a long time the working title was responsible. And then it changed, and it changed because I had the Handbook of Council Administration, from which I quote in the book. And I'm now quite an expert, actually, on parish councils. Something I don't think I'll need much again, but I certainly have needed it in this novel.
Clearly you could bore for Scotland on this subject.
I could bore for Scotland on this subject. And I found the phrase the casual vacancy, and I realised that the correct term for what happens in the first couple of pages in the book is a casual vacancy. A man dies, and this triggers the action because his seat falls vacant on the council. And that phrase spoke to me so much, and I knew I had my title. And the reason that phrase speaks to me so much, it resonated with me so much, firstly because it seemed to me the casual vacancy, that is every death. Death comes so casually, so arbitrarily. You know, when we lose a loved one, you feel, I remember when my mother died, you feel as though a golden staircase should have come down from heaven. There should have been a fanfare. This huge thing happened in your life. And no, they're just gone like that. The casual vacancy, casually gone. So there was that level of it, I suppose, about mortality, which is a perennial obsession of mine. And then it was more than that. I was thinking about the lacks, the emptinesses in all of our lives, everyone's lives. And this novel was already becoming a novel about the emptinesses in all of our lives and the way we seek to fill them. And every single character in the book has one of these little shortfalls, this area of longing that they're trying to fill. Always, it so happens in this book, in an unhealthy way. So there again, that seemed to be another casual vacancy. The spaces in our lives that we take for granted, they're simply there. And some characters are filling that vacancy with drugs. Some are trying to fill it with bad relationships. Some are filling it with food or drink or acting out bad behaviour. So again, that phrase just seemed to fit the book like a glove, and that's why it is the casual vacancy.
This is an adult novel. It's been pitched as an adult novel.
Mm-hmm.
But then, of course, Harry Potter was a children's novel, an adult read it. Do you think this reverse will happen, that you'll extend
Personally,
audience?
and I suppose I'm speaking as a mother here, there's an age below which I don't think it would be appropriate, this particular novel for young people. Everyone's got to find their own guidelines with their own children, but certainly my younger two are 7 and 9, and there's absolutely no way I think it would be appropriate for them to read this book.
I know you don't like talking about your kids much, so I won't press on it. Is there anything you can say about them? Are they reading Harry Potter yet?
All three of them, well, my eldest has read them all when they came out. My other two are about halfway through, so we're not finished yet.
Do you read them to them?
Yeah, my son can read it for himself now, and my youngest could read it. Her reading's very good, but she likes to be read to by me, or she likes me to read Harry to her, so I read Harry to her. Oh,
not the Stephen Fry versions. You actually get the author's version.
No, even though Stephen's better, much better. Yeah, it's nice for Mum to read them. Yeah.
What I kept wondering when I read The Casual Vacancy, particularly the very tragic lives, the drugs, the desperate single parents, the shocking sufferings of some of the children. I kept thinking, how does she know this?
I've known people like everyone in this book. And I can only say that, I can only be very honest and say what maybe is self-evident. I've had a very odd life in many respects. I grew up in a middle-class family where there wasn't a great deal of money, but we never went without anything. But it wasn't a very privileged upbringing. Then I worked as a teacher and for charity. Didn't make a great deal of money. Then I was, as is well documented, about as poor as you can go without being homeless in this country. And that wasn't a very transient phase, that was a few years. And when you are that poor, you rub shoulders with people who are also in desperate straits.
This tough?
something that I think is maybe difficult for people to understand, and maybe I'm sure people hearing me say what I'm about to say may even not believe it, and so be it. You know, I can only tell the truth, and the truth is that till the day I die, I will not see myself the way many people see me now. Does that make sense? In other words, inside me, I know I'm so grateful for what happened financially. I'll never be used to it. I'll never take it for granted. You know, the height of my ambition financially was that I would be able to make enough from writing books to justify continuing to write while I taught part-time. That's what I thought the future might be if I was lucky. So it was so ridiculously unexpected that I think for a long time, and it's still with me to an extent, less so, but I kept thinking, don't blow it, don't do something stupid, because I know what it's like when you lose everything. I know what it's like to be at rock bottom.
One of the things a lot of people have said to me when I said I was coming to talk to you about your new work was, why is she writing? She doesn't need to write.
Well, that's true. You know what? It's true. I don't need to if we're talking about financial need. But I need to write. You know, that's something different. I need to write. So the question, a better question is, why is she publishing? That's a better question.
And under her own name.
And under her own name, absolutely. It's a tougher question. So to answer the tough question, which I think is a fair question, I am in the glorious position now that I don't need to publish. So, you know, I can't justify publishing by saying, well, you know, I need to make rent. And when I started writing The Casual Vacancy, I felt so free. I felt so free because I remember thinking, you don't have to publish this. No one knows you're doing it. No one, you know, if you don't want to publish it, or if you decide halfway through it's not working and it's not right for you, that's a wonderful place to be in, and enabled me to produce what I've produced because I felt that free. But ultimately, as a writer, I think what you really want is to have a conversation with readers. Mm. So you can kid yourself that you're writing entirely for yourself. I'm not sure. I think most writers write to be read, and part of the pleasure of writing is then getting to talk to readers about it. And I say readers because that's my favourite thing to do is to talk to readers. I enjoy that part of being published.
And given that it's being published tonight, you will never get clearer air than this, than you have right now. So, one, do you care what the critics think?
Well, I think you're lying if you say, oh no, I don't give a damn. I mean, anyone would rather get a good review than a bad review, given the choice. But I remember when I published the last Harry Potter, I felt it's the best I can do, where I am right now, it's what I want it to be. So to that extent, without being arrogant, it doesn't matter too much what they say, because I wouldn't change it. And I think I feel that about this book too. So do I care? Yeah. I really would rather people liked it than didn't like it, or found it interesting, or because it's you know, as you've said quite rightly, it is dark in places, it's tragic in places, and it is also comic in places, I believe. People are going to maybe have strong views about this book, and that's good, that's great, and I am more than happy if some of those views are not positive. You know, I'm as thin-skinned as any other writer. All writers are. Yeah, of course. Of course, we are. I think as a breed we are insecure, defensive. We are. That's who we are. You know, it's you don't shut yourself away in a room for 5 years and write.
But Jo, when you're the biggest selling author in the world,
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. All of that seems very unreal to me. Honestly, it does. It does. I crawl out. I feel like I crawl out of my hole like some badger into the daylight, and people say that to me. I think, blimey, how did that happen? I do. I'm not being disingenuous about that. That's my life. My life isn't walking down the street thinking, God, I sell lots of books, don't I? I don't think that way. But having said all of that, I am as insecure and as whatever as the next writer.
You've held the record for books sold. I think it was 12 million. I think
was it?
Deathly Hallows, the last one. But I believe tragically, your record has been overtaken
by
recently
50
for
Shades of
fastest...
Grey.
50 Shades of Grey,
Just
indeed.
think how many books I could have sold if Harry had been a bit more creative with his wand.
Did
Are you going to ask me if I've read them? Because I haven't.
No, I was, but as a professional thing. I mean, just basically because that's what's running out of the stores. I wondered if you...
No, I haven't read it. No. Have you?
I read the first one.
And?
Well, we were doing a special on erotica.
You don't have to apologise for reading it.
No. We were...
I had to do it. It was my job.
All right, I had to do it. It was my job. One was, look, it's really interesting to see what's selling.
Yeah,
I thought it was not very well written, but I can understand why it's working, and I respected what had gone into writing something that worked so well.
Sure. So it's an interesting time to be publishing because the publishing industry has obviously changed so much since you know, I'm old school. That was back in the days where there was really only one way to get published, and things are changing a lot, and E.L. James proves that. So I'm coming back into a very different environment, and that's quite exciting for me. I think the landscape's changed a lot. For me, I wanted to be traditionally published. I really value what a traditional publisher does. That's my choice, and I'm not criticising anyone else for doing it differently. But one of the great things about the publisher I'm with, and we had a very candid discussion because it was important to me that I found the right publisher for a book that was very, very different, that I found an editor that I felt I was really on the right wavelength with. So I thought I found them, and we had a very candid discussion. And they said, what are you looking for? And I said, honestly, I'm looking for a publisher who's happy for me to take risks, because I know that the next book is very different. Yeah. And I told them enough that they could be prepared for what they were about to read. And I said, I want to know that you're happy to actually watch me fail. And I said, and all I can promise you is that I will keep writing and I will keep producing books, but I want the freedom to do what I want to do. And true freedom also means freedom to fall flat on your face. And they were fine with that. So we're in a happy relationship.
And I would be killed if I did not ask you the obvious thing, which is over the last 5 years since the last Potter, you've been given many opportunities to say this is the last, and you've always kept that door a little ajar. Unlikely, not impossible. Mm-hmm. Now you are starting a whole new career, really, as an adult novelist.
Yeah.
Is the door shut?
No. It will never be shut entirely. I mean, I've always told the truth. The truth, I think it's unlikely there would be an 8th book featuring Harry. I think I've wrapped his story up. But the possibility at some point of a book from that world, I'm not going to rule out. I do think it's very unlikely. But if I had a great idea for it, I would do it. And I feel unapologetic about that. Clearly, I'm now publishing a book for adults, and it's a book I'm proud of and that I really like. I think that it's very possible the next book will be for children. It won't be a Harry Potter book, but I think that that's very likely. I love writing for kids. I love writing for adults. And I'm very fortunate that I can do both if I want. And my bills still get paid. So.
Well, Joanne Kathleen Rowling, welcome to your new career.
Thank you.
Congratulations on the book, and I wish you great success with it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jennifer. It's been fun. Lots of fun.
And that's our special. I hope you enjoyed meeting Jo Rowling. I certainly did. And I will be back next Tuesday for our first Tuesday book club at 10 o'clock. Until then, very happy reading to everyone. Good night.
You didn't study business, but
No.
It seems to me that you're a pretty hot businesswoman.
Really?
Well,
You have no idea.
you have the...
You have no idea. That is so brilliant. Go on, tell me how I'm a
Well, because
Tell me, this is excellent.
I've never heard a bad thing about you. In fact, even the taxi...
Really?
No.
You need a subscription to some tabloids in Britain, mate. I could give you some bad stuff on me.
Is that a diamond you're wearing?
Which one? This
Around
in
your
here?
neck? Yeah.
Yes. That was a gift from my husband.
It's mighty. It's mighty. Sorry.
This one?
Yes. It's beautiful.
It's not all a diamond. You need your glasses on. I was thinking, really? This is big.
Oh, it isn't either.
No, it's mostly metal. all.
But where I was sitting, it looked like this, and all of a sudden I got completely... I thought,
yeah, I bought it from Liz Taylor's
my
estate.
God,
No,
it was.
I have nothing from Elizabeth Taylor's estate.